Hello and welcome to Sunset Television. You're watching our special election series Battleground 2021 and I'm Vishal Dahiya. In this show, you get a detailed analysis of election news and views from the poll-bound states. Now, the next half an hour today, we will bring you the detailed analysis of the strengths, weaknesses, challenges and opportunities for two major political parties in Tamil Nadu, the ruling AIADMK and the opposition DMK. The election for 16th Legislative Assembly of Tamil Nadu will be held on 6th of April and the counting of votes will take place on 2nd of May. Now, the state is all set for biggest electoral event. All political parties have picked up the pace and are busy deciding their candidates and stitching alliances based on various permutations and combinations. In Tamil Nadu, the balance of power has traditionally seesawed between both the DMK and AIADMK since 1967. Now, the 2021 elections will again be a direct contest between these two major Dravidian political forces, where AIADMK is hoping for a hat-trick and DMK wants to wrest power after a long gap of 10 years. This is also going to be the first assembly election after the demise of two legendary political leaders from both sides, Jayalalitha and M. Karunanidhi. Also, let us take a look at the figures and facts for all political parties and specifically DMK and AIADMK in the state of Tamil Nadu starting 2011. Now, in 2011 Legislative Assembly elections, AIADMK won 150 out of 234 assembly seats, while the DMK and DMDK won 23 and 29 seats respectively. Talking about Lok Sabha elections in 2014, the AIADMK got 37 Lok Sabha seats with a vote percentage of 45% and the DMK failed to get even a single seat. During the 2016 assembly elections, the AIADMK retained its majority in the assembly with 137 seats, while the DMK won 88 and the Congress managed to get just 8 seats. In the 2019 Lok Sabha elections, DMK won 24 Lok Sabha seats in the state, while the Congress won 8 seats and AIADMK could only manage to get 1 seat. So that is the scenario when we are taking a look at the situation in the state of Tamil Nadu from 2011 assembly elections, also taking into account the 2014 and 2019 Lok Sabha election, that is the general election as well. And in fact, in the recently concluded 2019 the Panchayat elections as well, after the 2019 Lok Sabha elections, the DMK seemingly has done well there as well. Let's take a look now and let's understand the broader scenario in the state here as to how both political parties are placed, their strengths, their weaknesses, opportunities for both of them. What exactly is their strategy on the ground and obviously their alliances as well. We're joined by Mr. Shekhar Iyer, senior journalist, and also Mr. G. C. Shekhar, another senior journalist from the state of Tamil Nadu there. Let me begin with you, Mr. G. C. Shekhar, and let's start by understanding the situation on the ground as of now. Vis-a-vis both DMK and AIADMK in the state, how are both of these parties shoring up their attack and defense both?
See, both sides have stitched up a very strong alliance. The DMK has the Congress, the left parties, and the Dalit party VCK, and a few minor parties, including the Muslim League and another Muslim party and a caste party called Kongu Nadu Makkal Katchi. The ADMK, on its part, it has finalized an alliance with PMK, which is very strong in North Tamil Nadu, the BJP, and then of course it has other minor partners. But it of course could not get Vijayakant's DMDK on board because there were issues. Because Vijayakant wanted the same number of seats that was given to PMK. The ADMK was not willing to do that because Vijayakant's party has weakened considerably after the 2016 assembly elections. And when Vijayakant himself lost deposit and the party could not win even a single seat. So that is the situation. But mainly Stalin is going hammer and tongs against the ADMK government on the issue of corruption. and saying that these people have sort of specialized in corruption, commission, and collection. And for every contract that is given in the state, a sizable portion of money goes to the ADMK chief minister, his relatives, and the ministers. On the other hand, Edappadi Palaniswamy has countered, saying that DMK and Congress means only dynastic politics. But he even listed out a number of sons and relatives, close relatives of DMK bigwigs who were contesting in the elections. In fact, there are 17 such candidates who are either direct descendants or very close relatives of DMK bigwigs. And in the Congress, there are around 7 people, 7 candidates who are very close relatives or either former TNCC presidents or
Okay.
sitting MPs and so on. So that is the. So he is saying that if you vote for DMK, you will have only dynasty politics and you will have gundagiri in the state. And then he also points out that during 2006 and 2011, when the DMK ruled, there was massive power cuts across the state. There was no industrial development, and he contrasts it with how the state Tamil Nadu has become a power surplus state and a water surplus state because of better water management by his government. And he is pitching on the development front, saying that how the quality of life has improved under the
Okay.
ADMK.
Okay, so
that is
more or
the
less,
good part.
the lines have been drawn there, alliances have been stitched, as Mr. G.C. Shekhar is pointing out. We'll look at both parties one by one in terms of their strengths and weaknesses there as well, and the issues also. But Mr. Shekhar, if we have to look at the prospects of both DMK and AIADMK with an eye on the previous elections and the facts and figures there as well, how would you summarize the situation this time around? And a very major important factor here is also the absence of the topmost political leader for both parties, Jayalalitha and M. Karunanidhi. They're no longer there.
Indeed, Vishal, as you mentioned, of course, the first big factor is there are no strong personalities to sway voters, whether it is Jayalalitha or Kalaignar Karunanidhi. You don't have towering personalities, but you are also seeing the other thing is the issue of anti-incumbency, because this is for the third time ADMK is facing the people and without Jayalalitha. So that is another drag on the ruling combination. But there are two other things which are going to play equally important, which is one is, I think, the alliances. What kind of social alliances or political alliances have been formed by the DMK and as well as the ADMK? I think the fourth factor which matters to the voters most in Tamil Nadu is the issue of freebies. Somebody is promising refrigerator, somebody is promising a tablet or a computer or PC or whatever. Somebody is promising 75% jobs for all the locals, as you have seen in other states also. Somebody is promising one government job in every family. And if ADMK is saying we will give 1,000 rupees to every homemaker in Tamil Nadu, the DMK is talking of maternity assistance to the tune of 18,000 to 24,000 per year. Then there is also a talk of reservation. Already ADMK has promised 10.5% of the OBC quota for one of the most dominating castes there, that is 1 year. So there is a combination of strategies being employed by both sides, and along with seems more like I would say a state level presidential election. It is Stalin versus Edappadi, and if the focus is on Stalin and his family and what is the role of the family, the DMK today. On the other hand, you have Edappadi, and as usual, they are talking of what has happened in the last 5 years without Jayalalitha and whatever happened when Jayalalitha was also around. In all this, we have also come across some of the serious charges laid by the sitting Tamil Nadu Chief Minister against Stalin, saying that even Jayalalitha's death, the DMK, had contributed to her condition, something like to that effect, which has also become a poll issue. So we are seeing a mix of strategies being employed, because this election, as I understand today, is a waveless election. No party is feeling a wave. Probably there are undercurrents, but we do not know what kind of undercurrents. But one thing is definitely clear, that I think constituency-wise and in the total aggregation of the results that will come.
Okay.
And
Okay. Okay, let's bring in Mr. G.C. Shekhar here as well on that very important aspect we're talking about. Mr. Shekhar, as Mr. Iyer pointed out that it looks like this time around it is Stalin versus EPS. But then, how do you assess as to how both these parties have coped up with the absence of their topmost political leader they face for so long? For DMK, it was M. Karunanidhi. For AIA DMK, it was J. Jayalalitha. So this time around, how have they strategized to cope up with that absence?
Stalin, of course, has taken full control of DMK, and he also proved his leadership by winning the 2019 Lok Sabha elections easily. He was able to whip up an anti-BJP, anti-Modi wave in Tamil Nadu, and he was able to encash that. But as far as Edappadi was concerned, he didn't have a good Lok Sabha election. His main aim during the 2019 Lok Sabha election was by-elections to 21 assembly seats that were happening, because he needed to win at least 9 seats there to stabilize his government. He needed a majority. So he was concentrating more on that. He stabilized himself. Edappadi's main achievement is that he has stayed as chief minister. He was seen as an accidental chief minister, but he is now trying to present himself as a performing chief minister. That he has got a list of his own achievement that even Jayalalitha did not have, like the Kudimaramatu scheme, by which all the lakes and rivers were all dredged, and then water storage improved, and then how he was able to manage the pandemic crisis very well. Tamil Nadu was one of the states which was praised by the Prime Minister for handling it very well. Initially, they did have a grip, but then later they managed it very well. And also how he managed to even get new industries to invest in Tamil Nadu during the lockdown period, when the rest of the countries were suffering economically. He was able to attract investments into the state, and he promised that at least 2 lakh jobs would be created because of this industry. So I think Edappadi has also been a good performer. He has grown with the job, and as one can see that he's also become a better orator. He's able to counter Stalin for point by point. He has even challenged Stalin for a one-on-one debate.
Okay.
Provided Stalin doesn't refer to notes, because Stalin has a weakness to refer to notes, unlike his father Karunanidhi, who had a tremendous memory. So I think it is proving to be a tough battle for both. But definitely, what Stalin has done is that in the absence of his father, he has now roped in electoral strategists like Prashant Kishore to plan the DMK's digital campaigns, to plan various various approaches. He went and placed, on Prashant Kishore's advice, he went and placed a complaint box in every constituency, where he would collect the complaints from people with a promise that within 100 days of coming to power, the issues that they raise will be solved. So
Okay.
these are the new techniques that he is now rolled out to the people of Tamil Nadu, and I think his packaging is much better. Stalin's packaging is better. He says that there are catchy tunes that is dominating television and radio stations here, and Edappadi is also responding with his own television ads and digital ads. I think it is an all-out publicity war from both sides.
Okay. Indeed, both sides will leave no stone unturned out there. Mr. Shekhar Iyer is back with us. Mr. Iyer, you were earlier talking about, certain issues in this particular election which are being highlighted by both sides. But there is one common thread which, has continued as far as the electoral politics of Tamil Nadu is concerned, and that is freebies being announced by both sides. And this time around, it continues unabated. So, is this sort of a trend which, we will not see the end of it? Or is this something which both these parties have realized in the past that, it gains them some votes or a kind of number of votes which then translates into seats?
Well, I think freebies are there to stay. So you are seeing election after elections, something new. But the newer element this time is promise of refrigerator to every
No,
household.
no,
That
no.
is
Washing machine. Washing machine.
Washing machine.
washing machine. Washing machine.
By
Washing machine is
ADMK.
a new. So I wonder, if to counter washing machine, somebody may think of a refrigerator because at this rate, because it started with gas stoves at one point of time, then it moved on to providing free cylinders. Now it has moved on to further kitchen cookware, and we do not know what else because cookware has always been given at the local level by the candidates themselves. And of course, swing machines were there, but now we are hearing actual cash payment to the homemakers. Like there are two routes we are seeing. Stalin is promising what is called the maternal assistance, in the sense help for the
Okay. Okay, definitely there. Mr. GC Shekhar, your views there on this, but making it to the welfare schemes, promising welfare schemes for the people is fine, but then taking it to the level of cookware, talking about washing machines and other aspects, it's, looks like the politics of freebies has gone one step ahead in the state of Tamil Nadu. But does it actually give results to these political parties on the ground? What's your analysis
Yeah,
there?
I see the freebie culture started in 2006 when Jayalalitha had announced her manifesto and then had gone on campaign. And suddenly later then DMK came up with this manifesto in 2006 in which they promised free color TV to each home. And then he also promised 3 kilos of rice for free 3 kilos of rice to every ration card holder. And that really caught on. That really propelled the DMK's campaign. And then P. Chidambaram, who was the finance minister, he went about, who was a partner of the DMK, went about guaranteeing that this was eminently feasible. The color TV scheme is feasible. The freezerizer scheme is feasible. The state government's finances can take care of it and all that stuff. So that added credibility to the promise, and that is one of the reasons that the DMK won. Of course, they didn't get a majority. They won
Okay.
only around 96. They were a minority government. That Jayalalitha became wiser during the 2011 elections. She waited for the DMK to announce its manifesto in which they promised either a grinder or a mixer for each household. Jayalalitha said, I will not only give a grinder plus a mixer, but I will also give a table fan for each house. So
Okay.
that is how she improved upon it. Now what has happened is Kamala Hassan was the first to say that the housewives have to be rewarded. Their work goes unrewarded. So we will give allowance we'll give a salary to housewife. That is what
Okay.
he said. He didn't quantify the amount. Stalin lashed onto it and said that he said he'll pay 1,000 rupees as a month as assured allowance to housewives every year. So next day, then the ADMK improved it, saying that we'll pay 1,500 rupees. Then Stalin said those who lost livelihood due to corona, they'll be paid 4,000 rupees. One time for payment of 4,000 rupees.
Okay.
Then
Okay.
Edapati said we paid 2,500 rupees for us during the Pongal festival. That will also be paid every year annually.
So it looks like Mr. Shekhar, the way you're pointing out, it looks like that it's a one-upmanship game going on between DMK and AIADMK when it comes to freebies. And now let's look at one more aspect towards the end of this show, and I'd like to bring in Mr. Shekhar Iyer here, and let's talk about the alliance partners for these two political parties as well, because that's also really crucial, really important. The reason why I'm picking up this part here, Mr. Iyer, is because if you're looking at the previous election, for DMK, this became really significant. Its alliance partner, major alliance partner, Congress fought on almost 40 seats, could win only 8, around 20% of strike rate. Almost a similar situation which happened in the recent Bihar elections as well. Looks like DMK learned its lessons, gave only 25 odd seats to Congress this time. So how is the situation, on the ground there looks like in these elections? And similarly for AIADMK as well, they've given 20 seats to BJP.
Indeed, Vishal, if you look at the way ADMK and DMK are approaching these elections, at least the DMK seems to feel that whatever it must do it alone. Okay, for the sake of a front and for the sake of an alliances, and where it involves some social combinations, we have conceded seats to all those smaller parties. But by and large, the whole thrust is on self-driven exercise to see that they are forming the government on their own. They don't want a repeat of 2006, where they were, had to depend on other parties. See, for a long time, DMK has not been able to cross that 100 mark. So they don't want the repeat. That is why you saw DMK contesting a larger number of seats this time, and along with the fact that they rather limited Congress to just 25 seats. Similarly, on the ADMK side, if you see, apart from conceding 40 seats to Patali Makkal Katchi in the 1 year belt, rather they are also going more on their own. And also, you can see on certain issues, the ADMK is also trying to, strike a distance from the BJP. Say on the issue of Citizenship Amendment Act, on that they have taken a stand that they are not in favor of CAA. Whereas the BJP is very strongly about it. In fact, BJP feels that the ADMK should rather should say that they will convince those who don't believe in the act. So you can see that both the regional parties are trying to fight this election in their full on their own, and it appears as though they want the results to be such that in the post-election scenario they are not at the mercy of any parties.
Okay. Let's quickly hear from Mr. GC Shekhar as well on the rationale behind the alliance partners and the seats allotted to them by both DMK and AIADMK here, Mr. Shekhar.
Yeah, one correction I had to make. PMK has been allotted 23 seats and the BJP 20 seats. What the ADMK has done is it has given some of the Dutch seats to BJP. In fact, it has given very, very unwinnable seats to the BJP. Even if the BJP had with the type of seats that it has been given, even if it wins 2-3 seats, it should consider itself lucky. Whereas the PMK has walked away with some of the strong seats where the party is very strong in northern Tamil Nadu, except for a couple of seats where it has been given in Dindigul and one in Chennai. I think the PMK has a very good chance. And also the ADMK is also raged against the Congress in 20 seats. So 20 seats, and wherever the last election proved that wherever the ADMK and Congress clashed, the ADMK won very easily. So the Congress may wind up with a similar spectacle this time, and it may not, out of the 25 seats that it has been given, it may maximum win 5 seats. And then there is also the factor of the third front, the Kamal Hassan's party, for example. Kamal Hassan is contesting from Coimbatore South, where he is facing a BJP candidate, Vanati Srinivasan, and then a Congress candidate called Mayura Jayakumar. So the fight should have been between Congress and BJP there. But here Kamal has entered the fray, and we don't know whose vote is going to cut into, because you have Muslim votes, you have North Indian votes, you have Malayali votes. It is a real mix, a community mix in that constituency.
Okay.
So for all said and done, if Kamal Hassan may even manage to win the constituency by defeating the BJP in Congress. So there are such imponderables as well.
Okay, definitely. So it is a very, very interesting scenario there on the ground. Thank you so much, Mr. GC Shekhar, as well as Mr. Shekhar Iyer, as our panelists were describing for us the prospects for both DMK and AIADMK in these elections, assembly elections in the state. Obviously, a lot is at stake for both DMK and its leader Stalin and AIADMK under the leadership of EPS, the chief minister there. Both these leaders have to go ahead and show their prowess on the ground there in the absence of the topmost two leaders, that is Jayalalitha for AIADMK and Karunanidhi for DMK. And also AIADMK would want to score a hat-trick here. DMK would definitely want to make a comeback after 10 long years to the power. Let's wait and watch as to what the voters of Tamil Nadu decide for these two political parties, and we'll keep on bringing you all the details, facts and analysis during this entire assembly election journey. Keep watching Sunset Television. Thank you.